Greetings, my wonderful students. Today we're going to look at England, social crises, war, and revolution. Elizabeth I. Now, Elizabeth I was the daughter of Henry VIII. She tried to make all of England Protestant through laws. But at this time, remember, it was her father, Henry VIII, who had broken with the Catholic Church. So what we had here was a large number of people who were still mainly Catholic in England, and a large number of people who had converted to Protestantism in England. And so there were serious issues in the population. She tried to make all of England Protestant through laws. She heavily encouraged trade, helping to build Britain's economy. Parliament. Now remember, Parliament had grown out of the Great Council that had been created by the Magna Carta. The monarch could not raise taxes without Parliament's approval. Now Elizabeth was able to manipulate them very well to get what she wanted. Effectively, she ruled England. But legally, she still had to discuss issues with Parliament. Now, Elizabeth died having no children, and so the throne passed to James Stuart, her cousin. He was a Catholic, not a Protestant, and he believed in the divine right of kings, the idea that the kings have the right to rule given to them by God, which also leads to the concept of absolutism. So he tried to ignore Parliament, not being English but Scottish. Now, Charles I, his son, forced people to give him loans and then imprisoned people who refused. So you're seeing the king beginning to abuse his power again, just much as King John had done so centuries before. So Parliament forced him to sign the Petition of Right to limit his power in order to get some more money. So he signed it and then ignored it and dissolved Parliament, said, "You guys can all go home now." Charles persecuted the Puritans. Now, the Puritans were a religious group who had wanted to purify the Church of England. And many of those Puritans left England for the American colonies, which is where we get the stories of the Puritans, of course, coming to the Americas. Eventually, however, the disputes between Charles and Parliament led to an English Civil War. Now, Oliver Cromwell, who was a member of Parliament, led Parliament's army against the king. So it was literally one branch of government, Parliament, fighting another branch of government, the monarchy. Cromwell's forces defeated the king's forces, and Charles I was tried, convicted, and executed for treason. The king was executed for betraying his own country. This had horrified some of the people because they felt there was no way a king could ever betray his own country. And so this left a power vacuum, and Oliver Cromwell declared England to be a commonwealth. We would call that today to be a republic. So the idea was a democracy was supposed to form. However, the Commonwealth did not last past Cromwell's death, and it really wasn't really a republic anyway, because what happened was Cromwell actually ruled as a dictator. So, Cromwell was not a very fun guy. He kept power through the military. He closed bars. He outlawed all sorts of different fun holidays, and people felt that he was just overall too strict. So after Oliver Cromwell died, Charles II became king in 1660. Now, Charles II was the son of Charles I. And what had happened was when his father had been executed, Charles basically fled the country. Charles II fled the country. And he stayed a while in France. And they actually asked him to come back and become king. Now, this is called the Restoration because the monarchy had basically been destroyed. And now here it is being restored. So this is the Restoration. Now, he kept Cromwell's commercial policies, meaning his policies regarding trade, which expanded England's empire. However, he never forcefully opposed Parliament, which makes sense when you remember that Parliament had literally executed his father. Political parties had formed by this point in Parliament. Now, his brother, James II, Charles II dies, and Charles's brother, James II, becomes king, and he believes in absolutism again. So there were definitely conflicts between James II and Parliament. And one of the things was the fact that James was James became a Catholic, and so they were a little concerned that James was going to try to force England to become all Catholic again. Because before this, under Elizabeth's half-sister, Mary, who was known as Bloody Mary, she had executed like over 500 Protestants. So there was a bit of bad blood here. However, James II had some daughters, and his daughters were Protestant. So Parliament was basically waiting for a natural succession to get rid of him. They're like, you know what? He's going to die, and one of his daughters will become queen, and she's Protestant, so we really don't have to worry about the Catholic issue. And then, with his new wife, he had a son who would be Catholic. And in England at this time, it was the oldest male child who would inherit the throne first. And then after all the male children were dead, then it would be the oldest female child. So, with a Catholic son, now they're looking at a line of Catholic monarchs over mainly Protestant England. So Parliament united against James II. This leads us to the Glorious Revolution. Parliament asked James's daughter and her husband to take the throne. And James II left without a fight. He realized that no one was going to support him, so he decided to give up without trying to basically have a war. And because this revolution was bloodless, because it didn't cause this massive bloody civil war, it was called the Glorious Revolution. And it also showed that the king did not have total power, because effectively what happened was the Parliament asked someone else to become king and queen, and they did. And so Parliament is really the true ruler here, not the king. Safeguards against absolute rule. Now, Parliament passed a series of acts designed to prevent the king from gaining too much power. Habeas corpus, which basically means you have to be charged with a crime before you can be arrested. Tolerance for other Protestants. Freedom of speech in Parliament, not everywhere, but in Parliament. And Parliament then passed the Act of Settlement, stating that a Catholic could not become the monarch of England. Effectively, Parliament now rules England. And that is how the king and queens lost a lot of their power.